this computer. Recording in progress. Okay, Namo Om Vishnu Bhattaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Sarasati Devi Kauravani Pachaline Nivasesha Sunyavadi Pashtatara Satanine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so welcome Kamari Priya. Thank you for joining us. Hare Krishna. So let me just bring up my Bhagavad Gita. And so I can, yeah, that's it. Okay. Yes, 220. This is a nice verse. Okay. Well, they're all nice verses. I distributed some Bhagavad Gitas today on Oxford Street. Very nice. One man took it very nicely. He was so happy to get the Bhagavad Gita. Actually, a couple of people, they really took it. It was really nice exchange. So there's one young man who took it, and he said he's going to read it as soon as he gets home. So I'm now imagining him sitting and reading Bhagavad Gita. So we are reading Bhagavad Gita, text 20. So
Prabhu, you should have asked him to come and join us here.
yeah, I was thinking to say that actually. Well, let's see if he gets through that first hurdle reading Gita, and he comes to the temple. You never know. Okay, let's see. So
one distribute books. I cannot do that. I wish I could.
You should. Then you can pray for us who are distributing books.
Pray for me that I can do it.
No, it's good to pray for others. Excuse me.
Yeah. Right.
I want to pray for me that I want. That's the top mercy. I want that.
What me. Others, my dear. Others.
Okay. So perhaps I can read the first verse in purple. There's no hands up, but so devotees can put their hands up if they'd like to read a verse. So
excuse me, sorry, I just came in now.
Nayam Budva Bhavita Vanabuya Ajo Nitya Shasvato Yam Parano Nahanyate Hanyamani Sharire. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being. One's got to move something here. And will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existent, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So, excuse me, I'm reading a bit slow. I'm a little bit tired. But okay, so purple. Let's see how long the purple is.
Can I just ask you what page are we? What text we are? Because I've just
220.
220. The page.
220. I had that. Just look for the chapter.
Yeah, what chapter?
Chapter 2, text 20.
Thank you.
220.
Yeah, wake up.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Purport by Srila Prabhupada.
Okay.
Qualitatively, the small atomic fragmental part of the Supreme Spirit is one with the Supreme. He undergoes no changes like the body. Sometimes the soul is called the steady or kutastha. The body is subject to 6 kinds of transformations. It takes its birth from the womb of the mother's body, remains for some time, grows, produces some effects, gradually dwindles, and at last vanishes into oblivion. The soul, however, does not go through such changes. The soul is not born, but because it takes on a material body, the body takes its birth. The soul does not take birth there, and the soul does not die. Anything which has birth also has death, and because the soul has no birth, he therefore has no past, present, or future. He is eternal, ever existent, and primeval. That is, there is no trace in history of his coming into being. Under the impression of the body, we seek the history of birth, etc., of the soul. The soul does not at any time become old, as the body does. The so-called old man, therefore, feels himself to be the same spirit as in his childhood or youth. The changes of the bodies does not affect the soul. The soul does not deteriorate like a tree, nor anything material. The soul has no byproducts either. The byproducts of the body, namely children, are also different individual souls, and owing to the body, they appear as children of a particular man. The body develops because of the soul's presence, but the soul has neither offshoots nor change. Therefore, the soul is free from 6 kinds of changes of the body. In the Katha Upanishad 1-18, we also find a similar passage which reads, the Jayati Machiti va Vapaschin Nayam Kutushtin na Pupu Vakaschit Ajo Nitya Shasvato Yam Parano Hanyate Hanyamhanani Sarire. The meaning and purport of this verse is the same as in Bhagavad Gita, but here in this verse there is one special word, vipaschit, which means learned or with knowledge. The soul is full of knowledge, or full always with consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is a symptom of the soul. Even if one does not find the soul within the heart where he is situated, one can still understand the presence of the soul simply by the presence of consciousness. Sometimes we do not find the sun in the sky owing to clouds or some other reason, but the light of the sun is always there, and we are convinced that it is there for daytime. As soon as there is a little light in the sky in the morning, we can understand that the sun is in the sky. Similarly, since there is some consciousness in all bodies, whether man or animal, we can understand the presence of the soul. This consciousness of the soul is, however, different from the consciousness of the Supreme, because the Supreme Consciousness is all knowledge, past, present, and future. The consciousness of the individual soul is prone to be forgetful. When he is forgetful of his real nature, he obtains education and enlightenment from the superior lessons of Krishna. But Krishna is not like the forgetful soul. If so, Krishna's teachings of Bhagavad Gita would be useless. There are 2 kinds of souls, namely the minute particle soul, Anu Atma, and the super soul, Vibhu Atma. This is also confirmed in the Katha Upanishad in this way. Anayo aniyan mahato mahiyan atmasya janto nihito guhayam tammakrato pasyati vitashoko datu pushadam mahimanam atmanaha. Both the super soul, Paramatma, and the atomic soul, Jivatma, are situated on the tree of the body within the same heart of the living being. And only one who has become free from all material desires as well as lamentations can, by the grace of the Supreme, understand the glories of the soul. Krishna is the fountainhead of the super soul also, as it will be disclosed in the following chapters. And Arjuna is the atomic soul, forgetful of his real nature. Therefore, he requires to be enlightened by Krishna, or by his bona fide representative, the spiritual master. Okay, Hare Krishna. I'll just check in the commentary. So, any questions about this? Speaking about our eternality, that's our constitution. Actually, that's what's been explained here. But we very much identify with the culture of birth and death. We fully identify with it. But actually, it's a wrong identification. Yeah. It's only the body that's born. Interesting. It's only the body that's born. And it's only the body, as described there in the verse, that goes through these 6 transformations. The soul itself is not subject to that. And it's only the body that gives birth to other bodies. Yeah, the soul doesn't give birth. to other souls. Only Krishna can do that. Yeah, we are all parts and parcels of Krishna, but we've been part and parcel of. Yeah, we've been part and parcel of Krishna. It's not as if there was a time when we did not exist. That's what is being described here. You know, we're the eternal. We mentioned this before. There's lots of purports on this subject. Atma Tattva. I'm just bringing up the culture of birth and death because generally, when we read about the soul and about its qualities, often we cannot identify or understand what is being described because our consciousness is fully enwrapped in and absorbed in this particular body that we have. Yeah. But actually, it's just the body we have for a small amount of time. Our real nature is a spirit, soul. Yeah. We're all convinced about this, so I guess there's no doubts out there or questions. I was explaining this today. That's one of my basic lines. If I manage to stop someone for more than a few seconds, it's a classic line you explain to people. Like, there's more to us than bones and blood. I say that, and they agree. Yeah. Then I say there's a more to life than shopping. So they're on a shopping street, got shopping bags, then they would agree, yeah, there's more to life than shopping. There's more to us than bones and blood. You know? All right. Let me just check here the commentary for your interest. Just read it here. Clearly, Krishna delineates the eternity of the soul. Najayati mrityate. The soul is not born and never dies. The soul is achar, unborn, in the past, present, and future, shashvata, deathless. Again, Arjuna's fear of killing his guru is defeated. In this way, Krishna continues to dismantle Arjuna's arguments against fighting. Yeah. All right, let's read another verse. So, Nanda Vallabhi Mother, you can read text 21.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam majma vayayam katham sa purusha partha kamgha tayati hantikam. O Parth, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Purport. Everything has its proper utility, and a man who is situated in complete knowledge knows how and where to apply a thing for its proper utility. Similarly, violence also has its utility, and how to apply violence rests with the person in knowledge. Although the justice of the peace awards capital punishment to a person condemned for murder, the justice of the peace cannot be blamed because he orders violence to another person according to the codes of justice. In Manu-samhita, the law book for mankind, it is supported that a murderer should be condemned to death so that in his next life he will not have to suffer for the great sin he has committed. Therefore, the king's punishment of hanging a murderer is actually beneficial. Similarly, when Krishna orders fighting, it must be concluded that violence is for supreme justice, and thus Arjuna should follow the instruction, knowing well that such violence committed in the act of fighting for Krishna is not violence at all, because at any rate, the man, or rather the soul, cannot be killed. So, for the administration of justice, so-called violence is permitted. A surgical operation is not meant to kill the patient, but to cure him. Therefore, the fighting to be executed by Arjuna at the instruction of Krishna is with full knowledge, so there is no possibility of sinful reaction.
Okay, thank you. Remember, a few weeks ago, I brought this up as a question. We had a bit of a discussion about this. How can we justify killing, or how can we justify warfare? Here, this is the Battle of Kurukshetra. So there's many wars going on today, and are they justified or not? And in that, if they are or if they're not, how is the Battle of Kurukshetra justified, or how is violence justified in a so-called religious book? Do you remember we had that discussion? I asked that as a question. We had some quite discussion on it. Actually, just today, one man came and he got Bhagavad Gita from Adam Prabhu, who was out on the street today, and he came back and he said, I'm going to ask you a question. You know, why is you guys all about peace and everything like that? So this book you gave me is all about war. And he said, I want you to think about that, and I'm going to come back and ask you to answer. Sometimes you meet people like that on the street. So he went and he didn't come back, but we were discussing on what of what we might say. So let's just revisit that again, but won't spend too long on it because we did speak about it. How can we justify it? If someone challenges us or you with that, you're supposed to be religious, supposed to be ahimsa is a principle mentioned by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita.
Prabhu, you said that it's a fight for righteousness.
Yeah, thank you for remembering. Yes.
Establish dharma.
Yeah, that's it. Basically, yeah. It's the fact that in this material world, there has to be war. There has to be force. That's why we have the police force. The police force. Because they have to establish peace in society. And sometimes force is needed. So here, we could say this is actually a religious or a dharmic war, because it's between two cousin brothers. I said this a few times today as well on the street. Cousins, one side are classically materialistic, they're greedy, they're envious, they're not very pious, they're not very religious. So, on the other side, they're very pious, they're very religious, and they're very virtuous. So, they need to be, or Krishna wanted them to rule the world, and that could be achieved only by killing the other side. So, in that sense, this is a dharmic war, a religious war. But the wars today, then they're not about that. you don't think all the different wars that are going on, do you really think they're fighting to put a just religious person in charge of a country?
No.
Of course, some Muslims may say that, some fanatical Muslims, they want to establish, what do they call it? A Muslim state? They have some word for it. But they're full of, jihad, but they're full of they're full of hypocritical, they're very hypocritical when you look at what they do to achieve that. Anyway, I think we got the point. Yeah. And capital punishment. The Hare Krishnas are into capital punishment. You have to be careful where you say that or how you say it. You know, there's some places where you might not bring that out. But we're into capital punishment. I remember we had this discussion at school. I think when I was at school, capital punishment was over and done with. I think in the 60s, the last person was hanged or something, or in the 50s. But in the school, we had the classic case, which was the preempting of the abolishment of capital punishment. I forget the names involved, but there was two guys on the roof in a factory, and someone killed a security guard that was trying to break into the factory, and the person who the person who didn't kill the security guard because the other person, I can't remember the details, but basically the wrong person was hanged. The actual murderer got away and the innocent person got hanged. They made a boo-boo in the court. They made a mistake. So that was put forward as a reason to finally do away with this abomination called this uncivilized thing called capital punishment. So what could you say if someone brings that up? Okay, we support capital punishment for a murderer, but we see that there's so many mistakes in the court. There may be even bribery and mistakes. Sometimes I see these things. I don't know why I watch them. When one of my distractions is because it's quite, I won't tell the history of when I was young. I was somewhat, anyway, I won't go into those details. But some people are wrongly accused and they're put in prison. And as you can see, accounts of persons who have been in prison for 20 or 30 years. And then because of some DNA check, then they become found not guilty. That's after spending 30 years in prison. So people can bring these things up of why there should be no capital punishment. So what can we say? Do we agree with them?
Can we mention karma and the reincarnation, life after death? Can we mention that while we are distributing the books?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. That's one of the main. It's one of the main lines we use. Karma, karma and reincarnation. But are you offering that subject as a?
I was thinking, many years ago, was there one a footballer or somebody commented on somebody who was disabled in a wheelchair?
Yeah, that was Glenn Hoddle.
I don't know what, but
It was
then
Glenn Hoddle, and he brought up, this person's karma.
karma, but they didn't. It got really worse about all that, didn't it?
Yeah, he got what's now known as cancelled.
Yeah.
He got cancelled out of society, condemned because of
So
that.
we have to be careful how we explain things. We can't, if we use up words like karma, not everybody will understand. Though we can use it in a different way.
I understand now why Mother. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mother Rajkasha, I didn't make the connection, but you brought that up as an argument to say, if that person got wrongly received, if he was wrongly accused and received capital punishment, it's his karma.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you was part of the ISKCON's communications department wouldn't be very happy with you if you said that as an official statement from ISKCON.
Yeah.
So
Nutama would write you a letter. You will have you'll be called up in front of ISKCON communications.
So how do we argue that one out then?
Yeah, how do we establish that? That's why I'm asking. One thing I was thinking is that again, I think people find it difficult to relate to, but the fact is that it is hoped that with the law of capital punishment, then it will greatly, if the government is strong in their administration and they show no mercy to those who kill, then it's understood that that place that they govern will be relatively free from the fear of being killed because the government is quite strong. So if someone happens to be wrongly accused and wrongly killed, then okay, that's not good. And we should look into the judicial system to make sure that that doesn't happen again. But actually, the capital punishment should stay there for the actual benefit of society as a whole.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So we can acknowledge that it was a great wrong that has been done, and the family should be compensated for that some way. But actually, the capital punishment in of itself is a deterrent, not a complete deterrent. There are countries that have capital punishment and still people engage in murder. There's a couple of states in America where it's still enforced, but still they have people who murder. Yeah. So interesting as well that the person who murders, as soon as he receives the death sentence, as soon as he's killed, then that karma is done with. And next life, he's not going to be killed because he was killed. But actually, yeah, it's interesting. If we look at it from the Manu-samhita, from the universal justice system, then the person who goes to prison, like for instance, does anyone remember that horrific case? Sorry, going off the track here, but that horrific case in, was it Sweden or Finland? And many students, they was having a retreat on the peninsula, on the island. And one man loaded with guns went over there and killed about 40 children.
Yeah.
Horrific. Now, it's plain, it's no discussion who actually did the crime. You know, there's no doubts about it. They caught the man, they caught him with the weapons, and he had this insane philosophy of why he did it. And of course, because there's no capital punishment, and then they put him in prison. And now that country and all the persons whose relatives were killed, part of their tax is going to maintain him. But it's so painfully obvious that he killed 40 children.
Prabhu,
Sorry?
can I add something?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry to disturb, but what I want to say, because I've been, I've been trained on those cases and everything when I studied. So, and in both sides, and when they commit any crimes, most of them were psychopaths. They have mental condition and they don't understand. And another point, I'm looking from Krishna conscious side, they are coming already here to perform the karma. They're killing those people who killed them in last lives. If you check the astrological chart and you check the previous lives, they're coming to commit like punishment for those who happened. And when they commit murder or whatever, they are in episode. They don't remember. They don't remember. They don't understand what's happening. They just performing that. You see, regarding capital punishment, there is no institution. There is no right institution to judge and to perform capital punishment. This is, yes, of course, if we kill somebody to take, it's according to karma. But there is no right institution to decide who should be killed or who should not be killed, because most of those people who were in the Second World War, in Hitler, fascists, and everything, they were killing people in camps. So this life, they came here to be killed and tortured.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's why this Sweden or that guy, he killed, because we don't know. Maybe he was Jew in the concentrated camp, and all those kids, we call them kids, but we are fascists, SS military, those soldiers who were torturing him. So that's why he was an episode, and he did it. He was an episode in mental state, what we call this episode. He was having, he didn't remember that. And if he said, yeah, I remember, he said, yes, I don't regret about that. That shows that in previous, he brought that karma from previous or maybe more lives behind. So that's why we're coming into this life, just how to say, to pay our debt, karma. That's it.
Yeah,
Actually, there are no crimes. Nobody's committing crime, but we just performing our karma. We came here to pay debts, what we have to
Yeah.
do.
yeah. I mean, that's what we understand, but that's not what you might. But that's not what you might explain to all the parents of all the children who just been killed.
No, of course you can't.
You have to be a little bit sensitive. But you something crossed my mind when you was yeah, I mean, yeah, we understand that, but still the rules of justice have to grind, so to speak. So okay, we understand the law of karma. So it's not as if the person who kills, it must be your karma. It was just your karma. So you're just acting out the laws of nature. So we're not going to punish you. No, because then society would just fall into oblivion. It'll fall into chaos. So therefore, there has to be some judicial system where killers are killed or receive some punishment. Not that we invoke the universal law of justice or karma, which, it's okay. So yeah, we understand what you're saying is correct. Everything you're saying is correct, but for society to function in some type of normality, then persons have to be held responsible for their actions, and they cannot refer to the law of karma in order to be free of punishment. Otherwise, society would just be complete anarchy.
But Prabhu, those who committed crimes, they were not afraid of a law. They're not afraid.
Yeah,
And people who do not commit of crime, they're not afraid because they have no interest in committing crime. Are you afraid, Prabhu, of going to prison? No. Why? Because you're not interested to be killing somebody. You don't think about that. You see, there is big difference. So in that, because our society is, in the right, in the right society, it's fine. But in our society, many people are getting away with serious crimes.
yeah,
serious
getting
crimes.
away with murder, as they say. He got away
That's
with
exactly.
murder.
That's exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, as you can see, it's so this is what we understand. We follow Veda, and we follow. Well, we can't follow all the laws of Manu, but here's the law from the Manu-samhita. So, if we ever did establish a Krishna conscious society, this may be one purport which we may discuss in order to lay down the rules and the laws in some distant future. Anyway, it's a big subject. Should we read another verse unless there's any other comments on that?
I was just thinking, what's going on now? Can we understand it that way, that I've done something to this person in my previous life, so they've come to, and then forget about it? Or do we have to?
Well, no, that's how we individually
Feel, yeah.
Yeah, that's how we individually, what's the word? That's how we individually understand it, and that's what we apply. Tatenu kompum shushikshamano. Yeah. That ultimately we're all being driven by the modes of material nature, and those who do harm to us, they are also driven by their conditioned nature. So we're not going to prosper in consciousness if we're feeling, or if we take on the law into our own hands, and either subtle or gross. For instance, if someone does us a bad turn, does something to us, says something to us, and we decide to take the law into our own hands, and we become revengeful, and we become spiteful back, and we become revengeful, then that means there is no need for us to do that. The universal laws of Krishna is all-seeing everywhere. So if someone is spiteful or very unpleasant to us, we have no need to take the bait and act like they do and do the same to them. If we do that, we're just like the common person. We have to have them deeper. just like this very much is seen in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, when the said the colored man, black man, dark man was killing the cow and the bull. And Mars Briksha asked, who has done this to you? So it's a bit of a redundant question, because there's a man there standing right there. But the Dharma, in the form of a bull or a cow, forget which, didn't immediately point the finger at the perpetrator, but then looked at the more deeper religious principles of why this is happening to him. And therefore, why this is happening. So ultimately, I think, if I remember, it must be the doings of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, this person is not exactly to blame. Still, Mars Briksha wanted to kill him, but then he surrendered to Mars Briksha. That's the whole story. So that's there in the Bible. So that's why it's good for us to live by these principles, very high, very deep religious principles, actually. When someone is doing you a bad turn, and you do not think bad of them, or you do not speak bad of them, or you do not do them a bad turn, that's really a high level of Krishna consciousness.
Because you see, in time, the situation changes. In time, the right thing comes out, or whatever, So it's not worth going through the hassle. Because in a few years' time, tables are going to turn, or whatever,
we shouldn't take the role of the we shouldn't take the role of being the judge and the jury.
Yes.
Don't worry. Krishna has eyes everywhere. So if that person, did a wrong to us, then, and also it's really deep, because we shouldn't also be in a mentality of, oh, you did this to me, you just wait. You're going to get a big reaction for that. We're kind of gleefully waiting for the time when they're going to get struck by lightning by Krishna. Yeah, wait, you don't know who I am. You said this to me, you did this to me. I hope you. No, actually, a saint will actually pray for them. Someone who's saintly will actually pray for their well-being, just like Haridas Thakur, when he was attempted to be killed, he was praying for them. That's another level of consciousness.
You kind of pray that Krishna gives them the understanding.
Well, I hope it's just that.
Well,
I pray that Krishna smashes them so he comes to the right understanding.
No, you don't. You don't want them smashed or anything like that.
No, yeah. What did Jesus pray? Forgive them, thy Lord, for they know not what they do. Yeah, forgive them, my Lord, for they know not what they do. So these are very deep principles.
Hare Krishna, I have an example of a reaction that came to me a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I was walking with Jambavati and the kids, and a stranger walked behind me. I turned because I heard some sound, and I was standing on the floor because he punched me. And then he walked off.
Really?
So we looked into astrology. Yeah, I was like, I had to go to the hospital.
Wow,
almost my jaw was really hurt. So I didn't even see his face. We checked astrology, and apparently it was a business partner whom I assaulted in my past life. So yeah, karma comes. You never know. I don't have any bad feelings, because I just you have to pay your dues, What can you do?
Yeah, there you go. So you checked out the astrology, found that out. Yeah.
It was very interesting moment. You know why? Because Jagamohin invited us to the coffee, healthy and wealthy. And we were going to that coffee shop in here where we live now. We used to live in Wood Green.
Oh yeah.
But we were invited in that coffee, and we were walking. And in 1 year, in 4 months. In 4 months, we are offered the place in exactly where this happened. And in the beginning, Gaia was petrified, because at every time I have to pass that pub, I remember that assault. So You remember how strange Krishna puts path. We could never imagine that we could live in Camden near this area, and we live exactly where she was assaulted.
It's 3 minutes walk from our door. When I was, and my kids used to say, "Oh, Mom, remember you were assaulted here?" I'm like, "I know. Stop reminding me." Because they saw everything. They saw me covered in blood, and they're like, it's ingrained in their minds. Like, yo, Krishna's games, he moved me here.
Yeah, anyway, it must have been a frightening experience. Yeah, see, this is, yeah, it may be difficult to accept at first, but when we sit down and we contemplate it, it's good for us to come to the conclusion. This must be my karma. Now, it's a sensitive subject. I mean, I won't take conversation in the direction of abuse and things like that. But yeah, ultimately, like I remember one time on the Harinam, one man came running into the Harinam and punched Abhimanyu flat in the face. Just punched him and just ran off, It was difficult for Abhimanyu to digest, but yeah. So this is a devotee. This is the mentality that we're trying to develop. That, yeah, it might, okay, we have to accept the fruits of our bad activities. If Krishna sees fit to still give us those results, so be it. But I shall continue worshipping the Lord of my heart. I shall continue praising him. I shall continue worshipping him. And that way you, Sadaya Bhak, one actually, your right to go back to Godhead is just the same as a son inherits the wealth of the father. It's just the course of time with that type of mentality. All right, let's read another verse, shall we? Let's read one. So I saw some hands up there. Mother Gaia, perhaps you can read text 22. Is that right? 22.
Yeah. In the book up. Oh, I can't do melody, it's too long, but I'll read it. Vasam sijirnani yatha vihaya navani grihati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Purport. Change of body by the atomic individual soul is an accepted fact. Even the modern scientists who do not believe in the existence of the soul, but at the same time cannot explain the source of energy from the heart, have to accept continuous changes of body, which appear from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth, and again from youth to old age. From old age, the change is transferred to another body. This has already been explained in a previous verse 213. Transference of the atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of the supersoul. The supersoul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. The Vedas, like the Mundaka Upanishad, as well as the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, compare the soul and the supersoul to two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. One of the birds, the individual atomic soul, is eating the fruit of the tree, and the other bird, Krishna, is simply watching his friend. Of these two birds, although they are the same in quality, one is captivated by the fruits of the material tree, while the other is simply witnessing the activities of his friend. Krishna is the witnessing bird and Arjuna is the eating bird. Although they are friends, one is still the master and the other is the servant. Forgetfulness of this relationship by the atomic soul is the cause of one's changing his position from one tree to another, or from one body to another. The jiva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of the material body. But as soon as he agrees to accept the other bird as the supreme spiritual master, as Arjuna agreed to do by voluntary surrender unto Krishna for instruction, the subordinate bird immediately becomes free from all lamentations. Both the Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.2 and Shvetashvatara Upanishad 4.7 confirm this. Samane vrikshe purusho nimagno nishaya shochati muhyamana jushtam yada pashyati anyam isham asya mahimanam itivita shoka. Although the two birds are in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness as the enjoyer of the fruits of the tree. But if in some way or other he turns his face to his friend the Lord and knows his glories, at once the suffering bird becomes free from all anxieties. Arjuna has now turned his face towards his eternal friend Krishna and is understanding the Bhagavad Gita from him. And thus, hearing from Krishna, he can understand the supreme glories of the Lord and be free from lamentation. Arjuna is advised herewith by the Lord not to lament for the bodily change of his old grandfather and his teacher. He should rather be happy to kill their bodies in the righteous fight, so that they may be cleansed at once of all reactions from various bodily activities. One who lays down his life on the sacrificial altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of bodily reactions and promoted to a higher status of life. So there was no cause for Arjuna's lamentation.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. So, any questions about this? Comments?
It's nice where Krishna says you should be happy to kill them. That's
Yeah, what does he
should be
say? Yeah,
happy.
happy. In other words, you're happy that you're giving them a better situation. They will go up to the higher realms. So, yeah, so Krishna's asking a lot from Arjuna. Yeah, interesting you bring that out. Because Arjuna is dreading killing Dronacharya, for example. But Krishna's saying you should be happy. You should do it in a very happy mood, knowing that actually, as Kshatriyas especially, dying on the battlefield is a glorious thing for real warriors, for a real Kshatriya. It's a glorious thing because, I mean, for these Kshatriyas, there's no discussion on whether the heavenly planets exist or not. That discussion doesn't take place. It's just so ingrained in the culture, in the Vedic culture, which describes different planetary systems and the destiny of those who do their duty. There is, so none of them are atheists. Interesting. They're not, even the Kauravas, they're not atheists. But they don't recognize Krishna as being the supreme. So that, in a sense, makes them atheistic in that sense. But they're not atheists in that they deny the Vedas. They will accept the conclusion of the Vedas, which means they accept they accept life on other planets. And not only that, but I think still at that time, then demigods would come down from the heavenly planets and take part in yagna. Yeah. And as we know, the Pandavas themselves were born of demigods. So therefore, they will happily go into battle, relishing killing or being killed. Yeah. It's quite a dramatic description in the Mahabharata of when the Kauravas and the Pandavas are marching, when they're actually going towards the warfield. The Kshatriyas are ecstatic. They're almost intoxicated with glee and pleasure at the thought of this battle coming up. Because they know if they lay down their life, if they win, as Krishna says to Arjuna, if they win, they will enjoy the earth and the resources of the earth. And if they lose, they will go to heavenly planets. Anyway, Hare Krishna. Yeah, so be happy to kill them. Anything else from here? Yes, please.
I heard, I am sure it was Giriraj Maharaj or somebody, as they're getting older, they still don't want to give up, give up this body that easily. So they want to practice. But we understand. I'm sure it was Giriraj Maharaj I heard from many years ago.
Okay, he's saying who doesn't want to give up their body?
Like senior devotees as well.
Oh, I see. Well, go on.
I was thinking that though we know that wherever we left, we're going to start off, but yet you do want to accumulate a lot in the present body that at least we know the consciousness is right at the moment with Krishna conscious and things like that. So, I was just thinking that why do this so sincere devotees don't want to even give up their bodies really and carry on?
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's a what can you say? What's the word? You can say what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, I don't think that speaks for everyone in all circumstances.
Right.
Which definitely doesn't. There may be some, especially I know devotees whose body is diseased.
Oh, they definitely.
Then they're really for them. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, etc., etc., etc. I mean, I know there's one my Guru Maharaj mentioned one of his godbrothers. He was told he had cancer, and of course, Dean, once you get told you have cancer, then you have to go and you get offered all types of chemotherapy, this therapy, that therapy, and he didn't even get, he just got a single flight to Vrindavan and fasted to death. Just went to Vrindavan and died. He didn't even contemplate going to any doctor, anything. He said, "That's it, I'm out of here." So he definitely wasn't afraid of death. So actually, our whole training in Krishna consciousness is that we shouldn't be attached to this body. That's the whole training. We should be attached to Krishna, so that we should not be hanging on to this body. Of course, before we reach those last stages, it is a duty to maintain one's body. It is our duty. We should always act for self-preservation. But when notice is served and it's quite obvious where things are going, then we should be Krishna conscious enough to not be fearful. Our practice throughout our whole life hopefully should manifest where we just completely take shelter of Krishna. No doubt it won't be easy, but we take shelter of Krishna. So yeah, that's it. So I don't think that's a general statement which Maharaj made. He probably, in some of his observation of persons who have passed, he might have observed some devotees still very much wanting to maintain their pointless body in their pointless, existence rather than let it go.
I was probably thinking because this body is given to us by Krishna and we should really look after it.
Yeah, and that we have to do, just like Sanatana Goswami, and and also Rupa Goswami, Sanatana and was it Raghunath Das Goswami? Then they both concluded that they want to commit suicide, but Lord Chaitanya forbade them. What are you doing? It is not your body; it is my body. I've got lots of things to achieve through your body. So yeah.
Plus, when you're reborn, you're going to waste so many years from birth till you come up to.
Well, let's hope we take birth in a gopi's womb.
Yes, right.
That'd be great. Or we take birth in a devotee family. Then we have a chance. Still, we're not out of the clutches of the material energy. Even if one takes birth in a devotee family, still one may be captured by Maya.
Maya, that's what I mean.
Yeah, but so therefore, Prabhupada would encourage us to finish it up in this life. Finish it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Serious
Any
suffering.
other questions on this? I've got a couple of minutes left.
Well, this verse is always recited, whichever Brahmin, at the time of death, at the time of the funeral.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's
ISKCON devotee or any other, even Sai Baba devotee, whatever they are,
Yeah.
they will always recite this particular verse.
and there's a verse in the Isha Upanishad as well,
Yes.
which let this body be burnt to ashes, but please, my Lord, please do not forget all the devotional activities I have done. Yeah, so for Shamsi Jinani Yata Vihaya Nirvani. So there's also a good, again, I mention it often, it's a good example that you can give people. It's such a simple example. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul accepts the new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. You know,
Mm.
such a simple, obvious example.
Mm.
Yeah, the absolute truth doesn't have to be complicated. It's quite straightforward. Yeah. And Krishna described in a very, very straightforward way. Yeah. The body gets old. And it's here Prabhupada mentions that the person still feels the same person. Perhaps he mentioned in the last purport. But then Prabhupada brings up here about the super soul. And he brings up an example which is used many times in the Upanishads, like two birds sitting on a tree.
Mm.
Yeah, so Krishna is there observing. Yeah, he's observing. And then you got the other bird, which is a soul. He is so-called enjoying or suffering on the leaves of this materialistic tree, Krishna. Yeah. So it's a super soul who kind of facilitates the next birth, etc., etc. It's all done by the agency of the super soul. So so here Arjuna is now turned towards he's turned towards Krishna. So we tend to turn towards Krishna, then we look back again at the material energy just to make sure we've just to have a look if there's nothing else left for us. That's why that's why I came across this statement I remembered it and I put it in one of the slides I'm doing on our Sankalpa Kumudi. I'll just bring it up. But Jesus told them, anyone who puts a hand on the plow and then looks back is not fit for the kingdom of God. All right. So once we turn our face towards Krishna, the idea is our face stays pointed in that direction. Do you understand this statement? Anyone who puts a hand on the plow and then looks back is not fit for the kingdom of God. Yeah. So we have a tendency to perhaps look back to see if there's anything. Oh, did I really enjoy that? Perhaps I should try again. No.
But is that way of making advancement as well a little bit? Like, when you come to that kind of stage, when you think, oh, I got friends on this side, I got devotees, shall I mix here a little bit, mix here? So, and then you know what you need to do, but you're still in that kind of, shall I not, shall I not?
Yeah.
So you are, if you make the right decision, you are making progress.
Yeah, that's it. It's only a natural stage, I guess, that we have to go through.
Yes.
Of becoming unstuck to this material world.
Yeah.
We have to go to stage, keep looking towards Krishna. But the more we keep looking towards Krishna, no doubt we're conditioned souls and we're foolish. And we look towards the material energy. And then if Krishna's kind, we get a reaction for that. But at some point, we should stay firmly fixed under the Lord's lotus feet.
Just like an hour ago, a friend found and she said, oh, Monday is nice. We go for yoga. The hall is packed. You should come. So we sit, I don't know, Rama, something yoga they do and whatever. Oh, and then it's only £2 and you get lunch as well. In my mind, oh, it's really nice. But I think I like going chanting instead.
Thank you for the offer, but I'm busy that day.
Yeah, I can't. you know.
Thank you for your kind
Yeah,
offer.
it's nice to meet so many people, but I'd rather meet Krishna instead, you know.
Yeah. All right. It's just crept past 7 o'clock. Again, we had a nice discussion. I hope we're not speaking too much on these verses. It might take us a long time to get through Bhagavad Gita, but it's nice to discuss these things, some points as we're going along. So thank you everyone for joining us. I appreciate you.
So many, 14 of us joining today. It's really
Wow,
nice.
thank you everyone. Let's look who's joined us. Mother, I didn't mention name. Yeah, I mentioned. I know him. Who's Himashu's iPad?
Oh, that's Sejal.
Sejo, Hare Krishna, Mother Sejo. Gopi Gita here is Anupama, Suniti, Kumari Priya, Anupama. Again, I forgot to send a message to Mother Mongo. I'll try and remember tomorrow. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for giving this time to Bhagavad Gita, and it's really nice to hear and chant Bhagavad Gita together. I'm sure we will get lots more meaning from it than sit in our own little world, you know, reading it. It's nice to converse, to be with Vaishnavas, discuss these things. So please, if you've got the time, please join us tomorrow and we'll continue on with text 23. Okay, so thank you everyone.
Thank you, Murli Prabhu. Praise Murli Prabhu ki.
Hare Krishna, Hari Bol.
Hare Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hari Bol, everyone.